My brothers and sisters, what's going on? This is Steel Sermon in the house, Wednesday evening, and these are my Week 18 picks of the 2022 NFL season. Week 18 is here. And before I start anything, I think yous all know where this is going. I delayed this video for two reasons. Number one, because it's Week 18, it's the final week of the season. There's no Thursday night game, so I can kind of take my time a little bit more with these. But the real reason why is because I wanted to give myself a break from sports for a little bit. As yous all know, what occurred Monday night in Cincinnati between the Bills and the Bengals. Bills safety Damar went into cardiac arrest and needed to have CPR performed on him for almost 10 minutes. And he is still currently in a University of Cincinnati Medical Hospital where he is still in critical condition. His mother was at the game. She had to ride in the ambulance with him. I can't imagine how she feels right now. And I just want to say that I, as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I do not like the Bengals at all, but I want to say that I'm very proud of how they handled that situation on Monday night, especially Zach Taylor for calling the game to be stopped right away, and just the total class that everybody had, from Joe Burrow showing, emotion, and T. Higgins especially, which I cannot believe people have the audacity to put blame on that guy when all he was doing was making a football move. He never intended to hurt him, never intended to, let alone put him in cardiac arrest. It was an unfortunate incident. It was a complete accident, a freak moment, and I can't imagine how he feels. So people that are blaming him, just do yourself a favor, just lay off of him. I had a whole rant video about the people that were putting him on blast on Instagram, but I decided not to upload that. But that's just something I wanted to, put out there. His family, Damar's family, has come out in public and said that he is, quote, still fighting. The only people that know for sure how he truly are the doctors who are performing on him and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So, just a lot of heavy emotions this week, and with myself, I've seen a lot of horrific things in my life because I used to be a lifeguard. I've had to give CPR and AED on people, on someone who suffered a concussion in the pool and he was hyperventilating in the water. So I feel real bad for that guy who had to perform CPR. I know how stressful that can be, and I understand how traumatizing it can be. So I feel bad for that guy. I've seen someone have a seizure in the water, which was absolutely horrific as well. But not just in my 21 years of watching football was that the worst thing I've ever seen, but this may very well be the worst thing I've ever seen in my life as a person. And it's something that I wish would never happen to anyone ever again. And it's something that, let alone, I hope no one would ever have to experience again. So, my thoughts and prayers are with Damar Hamlin, his family, his teammates, and everyone involved with this. It's just been a real heavy couple of days with what went down, and I wanted to give myself a little bit of a break for sports, but I feel like I'm back now. All the updates are going to be given to us. As far as the Bills and Bengals game goes, the NFL is still finding out a way to get that game rescheduled and resumed. I know that they're not going to play this week, that they came out and said that. So I don't know what they plan on doing it with it completely. And for those people that are in my tournament, I just did everyone a favor and I just decided to give everyone a free win for that game so you don't have to worry about it. So yeah, everyone with the Bills and Bengals game, you get a free win for that one. But yeah, Damar, if anyone in his family is somehow watching this video, God bless you all. God bless Damar. We're all praying for him. And I just want to start my picks off with that. But yeah, that'll about do it for the intro of this. So let's get on to it. These are my Week 18 picks of the 2022 NFL season. Couple of clinching scenarios to go over this week. In the AFC, it's pretty the number one seed in the AFC is still to be determined, so I'm not going to post the scenarios on there. However, the 7th seed is still open, as the Patriots, all they have to do is win and they clinch the 7th seed. Miami Dolphins are still in the race. They need a win and they need the Bills to beat the Patriots. And then, surprisingly, my team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, are still in it. We need a win, and we need both New England and Miami to lose. And those are your clinching scenarios in the AFC. Over in the NFC, there are a couple of heavy ones as well. As the Philadelphia Eagles, 3rd week in a row, all they have to do is win, and they clinch the number 1 seed in the NFC, and they clinch the NFC East as well. The San Francisco 49ers, they need to win, and they need Philadelphia to lose in order for them to clinch the number 1 seed. And the Dallas Cowboys, they can wrap up the NFC East. They need a win, and they need Philadelphia to lose. And then over in the 7th seed, it's still anyone's for grab. You got the Seattle Seahawks. They need to win, and they need to win. And they clinch. I'm going to have the real scenarios posted up above, by the way. So these are just what I went off of based on Sunday. I can't remember them fully, so I'm sorry if I make a mistake. But yeah, Seattle, I believe they need to win and they need Green Bay to lose in order to clinch. And then speaking of the Packers, they play the Lions. All Green Bay has to do is win and they clinch. And then with Detroit, if Seattle loses, the Lions and Packers becomes a win and in. The Lions, they need to win and they need Seattle to lose. So those are your clinching scenarios for Week 18. But let's get on to it now. These are my picks. So, as I said, no more Thursday night games, but we do have a couple of Saturday night games as the Kansas City Chiefs head on over to Las Vegas to play the Raiders, as the Chiefs are still in the hunt for clinching the number 1 seed in the AFC. They have the AFC West locked up. Raiders are done. They're 6-10 on the season. I really don't think I need anything to explain with this one. Kansas City, they are on a mission to get that number 1 seed again, because the last thing that anyone wants to do is play Patrick Mahomes at home in the playoffs. Mahomes has never had a road playoff game in his career. If you want to count the Super Bowl a couple years ago, fine, but that was in a neutral site. But he has never played a road game in the AFC playoffs in his career. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to get the job done over the Raiders. Then we got Saturday night, as it's another win and in game, essentially. We got the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars down in Jacksonville. Winner of this game clinches the AFC South. Now, this to me, in my personal opinion, should be the Sunday night game, because this is a for sure win and in game, whereas the Lions and Packers, as I said, the only way that game becomes a win and in is if the Seahawks lose. For both teams, rather. But this right here is a for sure win and in. I mean, I like the idea of Lions-Packers being later on Sunday, but if you ask me, that should be in the 4 o'clock hour slot, and this game should be the Sunday night game. But it is what it is. Nothing I can do about it. We got a winner-go-home game here as the Titans and the Jags go at it. These are two teams that are headed in completely different directions. Tennessee has dropped 6 in a row. They're 7-9. And the Jaguars are 8-8, coming off a dominant win over the Houston Texans. And the Jags are blazing hot at the moment, which is something that they have a lot going for them. They are hot at the right time. And when you're playing this well, this late in the season, you have a ton of momentum for the playoffs. And honestly, no team is going to want to play you when you are red hot right now. Do I think the Jags are a Super Bowl contender? No. They need, more patch-up work on that. But they could surprise a team or two in the playoffs in the AFC should they make it. And I think they will make it. The Jags dominated the Titans the first time they played, and I have no reason to believe that it won't happen again. Doug Pearson, as I mentioned last week, doing a phenomenal job down in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence is playing great football, and I really am high on this Jacksonville team going forward. The Jags just look like a hungry young team that is going to compete, while the Titans are starting Josh Dobbs in this game, so they're pretty much just punting this game, and they're punting their season away and just getting ready for the draft. So although Derrick Henry usually does have pretty good games against the Jags, they're just going to need more than that. I'm going to go with the Jags to get the job done over the Titans and clinch the AFC South. Every other game is on Sunday. And first up, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons down in Atlanta, as the Bucs are coming off clinching the NFC South. So congrats. You clinched one of the worst divisions of all time in the NFC South in 2022. They're 8-8, getting it done over the Carolina Panthers. I've heard that the Bucs are not going to be resting their starters in this game, and I agree with that 100% because literally your quarterback is a guy who's been to 10 Super Bowls, so you really got nothing to lose. I mean, this guy just, knows how to win. I mean, he's the greatest quarterback to ever play, so why not? So why not play him? Atlanta, they are just done. They got nothing to go for. I mean, all they have are just moral victories at this point. They're a team that needs to tank. I'm going to go with the Bucs to get the job done over the Falcons. I cannot believe Atlanta is actually favored in this game. So I can't really call this an upset because Tampa Bay, in my opinion, are just the better team. So I'm going to go with the Bucs to get the job done over the Falcons. Next up, a game that's going to feature a lot of heavy emotions. New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills up in Buffalo. The Patriots got the job done over the Dolphins as they just need to win this game and they clinch the playoffs. They control their own destiny. And then you got the Buffalo Bills. My heart goes out. My heart goes out to them. It really does. As I said in the beginning, Damar Hamlin. I really hope that he's going to make it through, and I really just do pray every single day. Ever since that incident occurred, I've been praying every single day that young man just makes it through. And as for this game, I've heard the majority of the Bills players took the team bus back up to Buffalo, and a couple of players stayed down in Cincinnati to be with Hamlin, understandably so. But this game is just going to feature a lot of heavy emotions. The Bills are playing for the number 1 seed in the AFC, and I literally have no reason to believe that when they take the field Sunday, they're going to go out there, they're going to leave everything they have on the field, and they're going to want to win this game for their brother and their friend and their teammate down in the Cincinnati hospital who's in critical condition, who's been needed to be resuscitated a couple of times, and is fighting for his young life to see the light of day. And I can only imagine what his family is going through right now. So the Bills, there are just going to be a lot of heavy emotions on the field for them. And just overall, I mean, even though New England holds their own destiny for this game, I'm locking up the Bills this week. like I said, the Bills, they want to win this one for Damar. And these are the kind of stories to where a team can end up going to the Super Bowl or even winning the Super Bowl. A fallen comrade, a fallen friend, and they're going to play their hearts out for him. This Bills team just has a ton of chemistry, and they're saying to themselves in the locker room, let's just do this for number 3. Give me the Bills in my lock of the week over the Patriots. Then we got the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. This one is down in Chicago as the Vikings got blown out in Lambeau Field by the Packers 41-17. Terrible game for the Vikings. When you have your opponent get a pick 6 on you and a punt return touchdown or a kickoff return touchdown on you, it just goes to show you nothing went right for you. Vikings had a terrible day in Lambeau, and I just don't know how you can call this team a Super Bowl contender. I mean, sure, that comeback they had against the Colts was epic, and it was an instant legendary game. But if they get in a deficit in a playoff game against a playoff team, they ain't going to be able to do that. Because we saw firsthand what happened in Green Bay. They led 3-0, and then all of a sudden the Packers are ahead 34-3. I mean, Green Bay just never took their feet off the gas pedal. The Chicago Bears, they are contending with the Houston Texans to get the first overall pick. So I'm gonna go with the Vikings to get the job done over the Bears. The Vikings are eliminated from clinching the number 1 seed in the NFC. So I think the Vikings are just playing to get the 2nd seed right now. While the Bears, as I said, they're just looking forward to seeing if they can end up with the number 1 overall pick. So I am going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to get the job done over the Bears. Another game that's going to have pretty heavy emotions as the Baltimore Ravens go on down to Cincinnati to play the Bengals, as the Ravens are coming off another choke job at the hands of the Pittsburgh Steelers, game in which the Ravens led 13-3, and they blow it once again, leading a fourth quarter comeback by Kenny Pickett and a game-sealing interception by Minkah Fitzpatrick. So the Ravens, they have wrapped up a playoff berth, but this is a game where they are really going to need Lamar Jackson. I don't know if he is, I don't know if he is eligible to play for this game, but only time will tell. In my opinion, this game should be the Saturday night game because for all intents and purposes, this game clinches the AFC North. So, yeah, like I said before, Jags-Titans should be Sunday night. Lions-Packers should be later on Sunday in the 4 o'clock hour. And then I believe, personally, Ravens-Bengals should be Saturday night because that game clinches a division. So that's just my opinion. But as I said, for the Bengals, they're going to be playing with heavy hearts as well, as a lot of the players on the Bengals, they are very shaken up about what happened Monday night. Understandably so. I've heard reports that some players are kind of leaning towards not playing, and I don't blame them at all. I mean, how would you have the will to play after witnessing something so horrific like that? I mean, we could have literally watched someone die on live TV. I mean, fair, and I know these guys are wanting to play for the number 1 seed. I know that they want the number 1 seed. I know they want the AFC North, but fair enough. Anybody would be thrown off after something like that. So I don't blame them one bit if they don't want to play. Joe Burrow was visibly distraught about it. T. Higgins is very upset as well because, like I said at the beginning, I feel for this guy. As a rival fan, I feel for this guy because regardless of what happens to Damar, this is something that he's going to have to live with for the rest of his life. And like I said, those idiots on Instagram that are saying, oh, you killed him. Oh, you're a murderer. I mean, first of all, the guy's not dead, okay? So just get out of here with that. And secondly, it's just, how can you sit back and make a guy who already feels bad enough about what happened and try and make him feel worse by saying that he's not going to make it? You can't fake a reaction that T. Higgins had unless you're either a good actor or you're a sociopath who's a pathological liar. And I don't think T. Higgins is any of those things, because I've heard that he actually went down to the hospital where Damar is in, and he refuses to leave until he comes out of critical condition. But, he wanted to hurt him. He's a dirty player. He wanted to kill him. Yeah, okay. I don't think a person who wanted to kill someone would do that. Just get out of here with that. But, with this game, I really don't know what to make of it, because if Lamar plays, I really feel like the Ravens have a good chance at winning, because he usually plays the Bengals very well, but at the same time, the Ravens are slipping and their defense is just very suspect. It has been all year. And of course, I mean, the Bengals, they are just red hot. I mean, they've won 7 straight games, pending that winning streak right now against the Bills. But yeah, the Bengals are just the hotter hand right now, and I really don't see the Ravens completing the sweep of them. I just think the Bengals are just the better team right now, and they're going to want to play to just get that number 1 seed, get the division title, and I think low-key they're going to want to make those fans up in Buffalo proud, because I know Bills fans have gained a lot of respect for the Bengals after what happened Monday. So I'm going to go with the Bengals to get the job done here over the Ravens. Easily the toilet bowl of the week. Strong contender for the toilet bowl of the year, as we got the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts down in Indy, as the Colts are coming off getting throttled by the Jags, and the Colts are coming off a spanking of their own, I believe, as the Colts lost on Sunday. I don't remember who they played, but I know the Colts lost big. But anyway, these are two just completely terrible teams going at it. These are two teams that just need to tank next year, in my opinion. But the Texans at least have a little bit of a purpose, because they're looking to get the number 1 seed the number 1 overall pick in the draft. But it seems like their tank can afford a win or two. So honestly, for the sake of picking someone, I'm just going to go with the Texans, honestly, because these two teams tied with each other back in week 1. But if you remember it, the Texans had all the momentum in that game, and the Colts were just a complete dumpster fire in that one. And I think Houston's going to want to finish the job. So this is a game where I really don't care if I get it wrong. But for the sake of picking someone, I'm just going to go with Houston. I really don't care about this game. Then we got the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets. This one is in Miami. The New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins. This one is in Miami, as the Jets are eliminated from contention. They are 7-9. Just a really disappointing second half for the Jets after they had such a promising start to the season. It looked like Robert Saleh was going to be a Coach of the Year candidate, and for a little bit I was saying that he should be, but man, just that second half the Jets had when they were 6-3, and then they just go 1-6 the rest of the way. Just a really disappointing second half for the Jets. And then you got the Miami Dolphins. They've had a disappointing season as well. It looked like they were going to be a low-key Super Bowl contender when they were 8-3. But now they've lost 5 in a row, and they are just losing at the worst possible time. Miami can still clinch the playoffs even with this bad losing skid that they're on if they win and if New England loses. But honestly, the room for the Dolphins is just the margin of error is just really low for the Dolphins. I mean, I don't know if Tua is going to play in this game. I think he, quite frankly, should not play in this game if he's still not 100% good to go with his concussion. Teddy Bridgewater is a serviceable backup, but Miami's going to have to get it done with defense here. And I don't know who the Jets plan on start, and I've heard that they might start Zach Wilson for this game, so I think that alone should increase Miami's chances of winning. And I know Mike White had a real bad game in Seattle, but I just think that no matter who the Jets start in this game, I'm going to roll with the Dolphins. So I like Miami in this game because I just think that they're too talented to be on a losing streak like this, and they're just playing, a Jets team that is on a bad skid as well. These are two teams that are on real bad losing streaks, and the Jets beat the Dolphins earlier in the season. I think Miami's going to avoid the sweep here. So I got Miami winning, which if my predictions hold up true and Buffalo beats New England like I predicted, that would clinch the Miami Dolphins, the 7th seed in the AFC. So, yeah, I mean, I don't anticipate us to make the playoffs. I don't think anyone does, but it just is what it is. Then we got the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. This one is down in New Orleans as the Panthers are coming off a loss to the Buccaneers. The Saints are coming off a win, actually, over the Philadelphia Eagles, as the Saints, with one of the most stunning victories of the season, going into Philly and beating the Eagles, keeping their season alive temporarily. That is until the Buccaneers beat the Panthers and clinch the NFC South. So, yeah, this game is pretty meaningless. So I'm going to go with the Saints to get the job done simply because they're the home team. And I think really Carolina's just going to punt this game just for better draft capital. So I'm going to go with the Saints to get the job done here. Then we got my matchup here as we got the Cleveland Browns heading on over to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers, as the Browns coming off a win over the Commanders in D.C., and we are coming off a comeback win over the Ravens on Sunday night, 16-13. Going to keep this at a minimum because I got my preview coming up. The Browns are starting to play well. The defense is starting to get it together, and I think maybe Deshaun Watson is starting to put something together here. And, of course, you got Nick Chubb in the backfield. So the Browns, they do got, pride to play for at this point. This is like a team that's just going to play spoiler, They would love nothing more than to go into Pittsburgh and beat us and end our season because we are eliminated from contention with literally one more loss. Whereas the Patriots and Dolphins, if they lose, it really wouldn't affect them unless the team that they need to loses. So you get what I'm saying there. We can't afford a loss because Miami, New England both hold the tiebreaker over us. So that's the story with that. Defense can't. I mean, the defense just absolutely cannot get gashed the way they did Sunday night with the Ravens run game. But it's no easy task. I mean, a couple weeks ago I was sitting down here saying that, we're going up against Josh Jacobs. He's the leading rusher in the league. But now they're going up against Nick Chubb. I mean, Nick Chubb is a great running back as well. So a lot of high-end talent on here for the Browns. Pass defense needs to show up. Rush defense can't get gashed. We got to come up with some opportunistic turnovers as well. Offense needs to do their job as well. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren both had great nights in Baltimore. Kenny Pickett, as I said, game-winning fourth quarter comeback again. But there were a couple of plays where Kenny Pickett was just kind of careless. I can't call his performance against Baltimore great, but he came through when it mattered the most, and that's just really all you can ask for as a fan. But one thing does separate with this matchup here. It's the fact the Browns just can't win in Pittsburgh. Since this building of ours opened up back in 2001 as Heinz Field, the Browns have only beaten the Steelers in Pittsburgh twice. And they've only beaten the Steelers in Pittsburgh 7 times since 1970. So, yeah, that's right. 7 times in 53 years that the Browns have beaten the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Absolutely mind-blowing when you think about it. But yeah, I mean, granted, a lot of that was during the Big Ben era. Now Big Ben ain't there no more. And the Steelers just have not looked like themselves at home this year. But playing to still clinch a playoff spot and wanting to keep their foot down on the Browns in the standings, and Mike Tomlin hopefully getting the team prepped up, I am going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers to get the job done here over the Browns. It ain't going to be pretty. It ain't going to be stylistic. But I do think that we will do what we need to do to get the job done over Cleveland. I'm going to go with the Steelers to get the job done over the Browns. Later slate of Sunday games, we got the Giants at the Eagles in Philadelphia. One of my favorite rivalries in the league, and as I said, in my personal opinion, it's the best rivalry in NFL history. Giants and the Eagles. So both these teams have playoff spots wrapped up. The Giants are 9-6-1, I believe. And I've heard that the Giants will not be resting their starters in this game because they got nothing to lose, and they want a little bit of role reversal for what happened a couple years ago when they needed to rely on the Eagles to get them into the playoffs and clinch the NFC East. Philly, they are 13-3. All of a sudden, they've dropped 2 in a row. They're coming off a home loss to the Saints. And all of a sudden, the Eagles, to me, it seems like they need to play Jalen Hurts in this game in order for them to wrap up the number 1 seed in the NFC. I mean, sure, they could maybe get it done with Gardner Minshew, but hey, they have not won a game when Gardner Minshew was starting. So in my opinion, I think Philly needs to start Jalen Hurts in this game. Another eye-popping fact about this one is that much like how the Browns always struggle in Pittsburgh, the Giants always struggle in Philadelphia as well. I can't remember the last time the Giants won in Philly. Might have been in the early 2010s, because I can't point out a time where the Giants won in Philly recently. So, there's that. And also this. Look at the line for this game. Philly's favored by 14 in this game. That is unbelievable. I can't believe the Eagles are favored by 14. Like, if this was last year, I'd understand it a little bit more. But, I mean, come on. These are 2 good teams playing each other here. 2 teams. This is essentially a playoff game here. It's a matchup of 2 teams with winning records that'll be playing meaningful January football in a week and a half. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is a playoff matchup here. Eagles fans, they think that the Giants owe them something. No, they don't. The Giants don't owe them anything. Like I said, this is role reversal for what happened a couple years ago when the Giants needed the Eagles to get them into the playoffs. That's just what makes rivalry so enticing here. And that's why I think this is the best rivalry in the NFL, in NFL history. These 2 have met in the playoffs 4 times. It's tied all-time 2 apiece. Philly leads the all-time series by just a couple of games. And some of the most iconic moments in NFL history have come from these 2 teams playing. The fan bases hate each other. It's just going to be rough and rowdy in Philly. I fully expect it. Eagles are favored by 14. So I'll say this. I'm going to go with the Eagles to complete the sweep of the Giants. But I am for sure going to say the Giants cover. I think they're going to go into Philly. They're going to give the Eagles everything they have. They're not going to lie down and die. and they're going to fight until the final whistle sounds, until there's 3-0 on the clock. I just think Philly's the better team, and the Giants, they're a draft or two away from being a serious contender in the NFC, and I think that maybe their offensive coordinator can do a little bit better with play calling, but overall, this Giants team is tough. Brian Daboll has done a phenomenal job with the Giants this year, and he's back to being my favorite for Coach of the Year. So, yes, I will go with the Eagles to complete the sweep of the Giants, but I am going to say the Giants cover. Philly wins this one 35-28. Give me the Eagles. Then we got another pretty easy one. Cardinals and the 49ers down in San Francisco. Cardinals are coming off a loss to the Falcons. They're 4-12 on the year. Just looking for a better draft pick, as the 49ers, they can still wrap up the number one seed in the NFC. They need a win, and they need to be Giants fans this week, as if they win and Philly loses, the 49ers clinch the number one seed in the NFC. They've won 9 in a row. I love the way the 49ers are playing, but didn't love how they played last week, as they they won in overtime against the Raiders. Yeah, that game needed to go to overtime. I thought that was going to be one of the easier ones to pick. But no, the Raiders gave them a good game. Regardless, though, I think the 49ers will be determined this week. I think they'll be focused, and I got them making it 10 in a row. Give me the 49ers to get the job done over the Cardinals. Then we got the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks up in Seattle, as the Rams are coming off getting blown out by the Chargers at SoFi, while the Seahawks are coming off a win over the Jets. So as I said at the beginning, if the Seahawks win and if Green Bay loses, then the Seahawks clinch the playoffs as they hold the tiebreaker over the Lions. So the Seahawks, they need to be cheering for Detroit. However, if the Rams beat the Seahawks, then the Lions and Packers becomes must win, or win and in rather. So what to say for this game? Well, Geno Smith has played very well for the Seahawks this season, and he is a strong candidate for comeback player of the year. Seahawks also just have a really good ground and pound run game. But my problem with the Seahawks is that they're very inconsistent. One week they look like a dark horse team, and the next week they just look like what we thought they'd be at the beginning of the season. And that's why they're sitting at 8-8. Meanwhile, the Rams, terrible season for them. By far the worst defending champs I've ever seen in my life. But I gotta say, with the Rams, it looks like Baker Mayfield can give them a little bit of a spark as far as offense goes. And something I gotta say about this matchup in particular, Sean McVay seems to play the Seahawks very well up in Seattle. So this is more tricky than you think here. I think Cam Akers has a lot of maneuverability to be the Rams' best player on offense as of right now. And when the Rams are fully healthy for next year, I think they'll be much better with Cam Akers now being in the equation and getting all their weapons back. So yeah, I mean, it was a terrible year for the Rams, but at least there's a light at the end of the tunnel for them. And I really just don't know if Seattle is fully ready for a big high leverage situation like this. And as I said, I can't remember the last time the Seahawks swept the Rams. It had to have been, again, in the early 2010s when the Seahawks were in the Legion of Boom days. And Sean McVay has especially played the Seahawks very well ever since he became their head coach. So get ready for this, guys. This is actually my upset of the week. And I'll tell you why it's my upset of the week. Because I think the Rams are going to go into Seattle. The Seahawks are going to horribly overlook them. I think Baker Mayfield is going to take advantage of a suspect Seahawks defense. And Cam Akers is going to also take advantage of a suspect Seahawks defense. And I think the Rams are going to score enough points on offense to get the job done. I think LA's defense is going to have a decent game here, taking advantage of Geno Smith not being used to high leverage situations like this. And as I said, the NFL put Lions and Packers on Sunday night for a reason. It's because that game could become win and in. And the only way possible that it's win and in for both teams is if the Rams win. So I think I'm not someone that sits down here and says, "Oh, the NFL is rigged, the NFL is scripted." Well, I am sitting down here and saying for those people, this is going to be ammo for those people this week. I am going to go with the Rams to get the job done over the Seahawks to make Sunday Night Football win and in between the Lions and Packers. So I am going with the upset here. Give me the Rams to go to Seattle and beat the Seahawks. Then we got the Chargers and the Broncos. This one is in Denver as the Chargers blew out the Rams, as I just said. And the Broncos are coming off another loss, but they kept it close with Kansas City. Surprisingly, the Broncos covered both games against the Chiefs this season, so I guess that's a positive for Denver. But regardless, the Broncos have not won a game in the AFC West this year. The Chargers have a playoff spot wrapped up. I don't anticipate the Chargers resting their starters. Austin Eckler is an absolute monster, and I'm going to go with the Chargers to complete the sweep. I just think LA is clicking on all cylinders here, and they could be a pretty tough team to beat in the playoffs when it's all said and done. So I'm going to go with the Chargers to get the job done over the Broncos here. Then we got the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Commanders. This one is down in D.C. as the Cowboys are still alive to clinch the NFC East. They have a playoff spot wrapped up, but they can still clinch the NFC East. They need a win, and they need the Giants to beat the Eagles for that to happen. And I believe also if the 49ers lose, the Cowboys can actually clinch the number one seed in the NFC. Who would think that? That the Cowboys could be the number one seed in the NFC if they win and both Philly and San Francisco loses. So that's the scenario. I don't think it'll happen just because the 49ers are just too good. And the Cowboys, they just lost maybe one more game than San Francisco did. But regardless, the Cowboys, they're going to be playing January football. Washington's eliminated from playoff contention, and I just don't see how they have the will to compete in this one, except for playing spoiler. But I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys to get the job done here. Dak Prescott has a knack for playing Washington well, and I don't see any reason for that to end. I'm going to go with the Cowboys to get the job done. And then the final game of the regular season for 2022, we got the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field. As the Lions are 8-8, the Packers are 8-8. Detroit won the first matchup between these two earlier in the season 15-9, where the Lions surprisingly intercepted Aaron Rodgers 3 times. And who would think at the beginning of the season that I'd be sitting down here saying the Lions are in a win-and-in game? What's supposed to be a win-and-in game? Because like I've said a couple of times already, the only way that this game becomes win-and-in for both teams is if the Rams beat the Seahawks. It's win-and-in for Green Bay no matter what. If the Packers win this game, they clinch a playoff spot. The Seahawks, they clinch the playoffs if they win and Green Bay loses. So no matter what happens between the Rams and Seahawks, it's irrelevant to Green Bay because they control their own destiny. Lions, on the other hand, they need to be rooting heavily for the Rams, as if the Rams win and Detroit beats Green Bay, the Lions would clinch the 7th seed. And a couple of weeks ago, I said a hot take of mine is that Detroit would clinch the 7th seed. However, that loss to Carolina really set them back. That was a game they could not afford to lose on Christmas Eve, because the Lions blew the doors off the Bears last Sunday 41-10. If Detroit had beaten Carolina, the Lions could have possibly wrapped up a playoff spot right now, and this game wouldn't matter to Detroit. But it does matter to them right now because that loss to Carolina hurt them. Green Bay, the only team before possibly this year's Packers that started 4-8 and made the playoffs, were the 2008 San Diego Chargers. They started 4-8 and they ended up making the playoffs. So there's the case there. Green Bay's looking to be the second team ever to do that. And they got a great chance of doing it. The game's in Lambeau. It's going to be in cold weather. It's at primetime where Aaron Rodgers hardly loses home primetime games. I hate to say it, but all the advantages in this game go to Green Bay. The Lions have a terrible track record of playing in Green Bay. And while I do think the Lions will give the Packers everything they have, I like the momentum Green Bay has. I like how they're playing for Matt LaFleur late in the season. Detroit's going to give them a great game, but unfortunately, I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers to wrap up the 7th seed and keep it hot. Granted, I don't think Green Bay will do anything in the playoffs, but still, just the fact that they were 4-8 a month ago, and now all they have to do is win to clinch the 7th seed is simply remarkable. I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers to get the job done over Detroit. Maybe next year, Lions fans. Maybe next year. So that'll do it. Those are my 2018 regular season predictions as we get ready for the playoffs. As you've noticed, I did no biggest winner and loser for this week out of respect for Damar Hamlin, as I don't think anyone this week deserves to be called a loser, because at the end of the day, we're all winners. But I thank each and every one of you for listening to my weekly pick'em videos, and my playoff picks will be up in a week and a half. For those people that are in my tournament and you've clinched a playoff spot, I'll see you in the playoffs. See you next week. This is Steel Sermon, checking on out for the night. May God be with you all, and may God be with Damar Hamlin.